we're going to look at how to write a Boolean expression from our truth table. Now, the way we're going to go about doing this is we can decide which items I want to work on. So we got to make a decision. The decision we got to make is, do we solve for when b is equal to 1? And if we do that, we're going to create a sum of product. Or are we going to solve for when b is equal to 0? And if we do that, we're going to end up with a product of sum. So we're going to do this both ways. So we're going to start first is let's pick b equal to 1 first. Okay, if we pick b equal to 1, let's grab the 3 ones that we have. So based off of k, d, and s with b, I had 3 items that produces a 1. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and 1, 1, 0. So I had 3 items that made up b equal to 1. So I know b is going to be made up of some expression, where this expression is going to be a combination of AND gates, OR gates, k, d, and s. But how do we go about trying to figure that out? Okay, let me highlight one of them for right now. And on this one that we're highlighting right here, b is equal to 1 when blank. Well, I got to be able to form up, how do I solve that I evaluate to a 1? Okay, I know k is equal to 1. And I know d is 0. And I know s is 0. And I want to form these up into an AND gate. To make into an AND gate, I got to take k, and d is a 0, so I need the opposite of a 0, so that would be d bar. I need the opposite of s, so that would be s bar. So that's one case. Then I can go grab the next case. How do I get k, d, and s equal to b in this time? Well, k is a 1. D is a 0. So whenever I see a 0, I'm going to put a bar over it. So that's d bar. S was a 1, so I'll leave s. Then I do this last case. On this last case, I have k, that's a 1. I have d is a 1. And s is a 0. So I'm going to say it's an s bar. So overall, I can say, let me take either of these 3 options. So it's either option number 1, which is k, d bar, s bar, or it's option number 2, which is k, d bar, s, or it is option number 3, which is k, d, s bar. And that would be how I can make a Boolean expression out of that truth table. Okay, so let's say instead of b equal to 1, I want to solve it for when b is equal to 0. Okay, we're going to have more options here. I'm going to have to write down the entire truth table, even with the 1s. We got 0s. We have 3 1s, and we have a 0. Okay, so to solve this item, let's do the first one. To get b is equal to 0, I want to use OR gates. So what would solve that I can get OR gates out? OR gates would be if k was 0, or d was 0, or s was 0, that would produce a result of 0. So let me put little zeros here so you can see of how it evaluates. So here we're saying a 0, it's the letter by itself. When we said k is equal to 1, a 1 was the letter by itself. So whatever you're trying to solve for, if you're trying to solve for a 1, the 1s are the letters by themselves. Trying to solve for a 0, the 0s are the letters by themselves. Okay, how would I do the next one? The next one would be I need k to be a 0, or I need d to be a 0, or I need s to be a 1. To get to the 1, I'll say, oh, that's an s bar. Because if s was a 1, S bar would be a 0, be 0, or to 0, or to 0. I get all zeros. Let's do one more. In that case, it would be k is a 0, d is a 1, so that's a d bar, and then s is a 0, so that's s. This case here, that's k or d bar or s bar. And then this last case down here, well, that's k bar or a d bar or an s bar. Why? Because they're all ones. Anything for 1 gets a bar over it. So then when we get to the end, all of these options are all ended together. So I get k or d or s. K or d or s bar. K or d bar or s. K or d bar or s bar. Or k bar, d bar, s bar. And that's how we can form up the final Boolean expression. All right, so let's just do one more example. Let's say I had A, B, C, and I was producing an F. And I want to solve this. I want expressions for it. So if we want F to be equal to 1, it's going to be sum of products. And I'm going to solve for all the ones. Everything in green I'm solving for. So let's solve for that. I say F is, let's take the first one. A is a 0. So that's A bar, B, C. Or next one. A is 1, B is a 0, so that's B bar. C is a 0, so that's C bar. Let's do the third one. It's A, B is a 0, so that's B bar. C is a 1, so that's C. The fourth one, it's A, B, and then C is a 0, so that's C bar. And then the last one, they're all 1, so that's A, B, and C. What if I wanted to solve for 0? Well, solving for 0, that's product of sums. I'm going to say F is, I need this to solve to a 0. If the letter is a 0, I keep it the same. So that's A or B or C. A or B or C bar. A or B bar or C. So we get those options out. Now later you can try to take these expressions and do simplifications to remove terms. But if you just want a quick, what is the answer? How do I start forming up that equation? This is how we can go about doing that.